Okay friends, it's time to get started on our engine mount. The first thing you want to do is locate this mount. On the passenger side of the engine, you're going to find exactly where it's located. You have the area that's mounted to the engine, and then you also have the other area that's mounted to the body of the vehicle. The next thing you're going to want to do is carefully slide underneath the vehicle. Along the passenger side where the belt is, if you were to look all the way up, you're going to find where the mount is. And on the bottom of that mount, you're going to find a 14mm nut. Remove that nut. I'll use my 14mm and an extension. The next thing you want to do is have a piece of wood and a jack. We're going to place the wood underneath this area of the engine. Put the jack there and lightly support the engine. Now let's make our way back up into the engine compartment. We're going to be looking for this little 10mm headed bolt that holds the AC line to the engine mount. Remove that bolt. Now we can start unbolting our 14mm headed bolts that hold the mount to the engine. Alright, so we've got both of those out of there. Let's continue on to the other side of the mount. You're going to find three 14mm headed bolts that hold the mount to the body of the vehicle. Remove all three. Now at this point, we have all of the mounting hardware out of the way. We're going to continue on by safely lowering the engine. While we do it, we're going to do it slow. We don't want to put any pressure on anything, but we do want to be able to get this mount out of the area. Alright, so we've got a lot more movement from this mount at this point. Let's make our way to this AC sensor. We'll disconnect the wiring. Right where my thumb is, there's a squeeze tab. Squeeze that tab, remove the wiring. Every time you remove an electrical connector, just give it a peek. If you see any funny colors, it's probably corrosion, and that would need to be dealt with. Now we're going to move along to this fuse and relay box. Find the bracket. On the bracket, you're going to find that there's a 10mm headed bolt. Remove the bolt, and then swing the box aside. With that relay box out of the way, let's carefully grab this AC line. You don't want to tug it to the point that you damage it in any way, but we do need to move it out of the way. Now we can grab onto that engine mount, we'll give it a little wiggle and start removing it from the area. There it is, friends. Now before we put in the brand new mount, let's clean the area. Now that we have that cleaned down, give it a quick inspection. You want to make sure you inspect each of the three holes in the body and the three holes on the engine mount. Okay, now it's time to install our brand new mount. Let's carefully slide it in position in the vehicle. As you slide it down, be very careful for your AC line and your wires that lead to your headlight. Make sure I clear that wire over here. Now as I start sliding this down onto the engine mount, keep in mind that the motor mount itself has a stud that protrudes down. That needs to slide into the motor mount bracket area. Alright, so now that I have this set down here and it looks like the stud's lined up with that mount, I'm going to start jacking up the engine. Now let's start in all of our mounting bolts. Now that we have all of them started, we're going to lightly bottom them out. Now that I have the ones on the body tight, I'm going to continue on to these two. But before you tighten these, make sure you carefully jack the engine up so the mounts are completely touching. Now let's get our fuse and relay box re-secured to the vehicle. Now we can torque each of our mounting bolts to 38 foot-pounds. Now let's re-secure our AC line. Line up our bolt hole. We'll put in our bolt. For this, you just want to bottom it out, make sure it's snug. There we are. Give that a wiggle. Now let's plug in our switch. Listen for a click, give it a tug to make sure it's secure. At this point, you just want to double check everything up along the top. Make sure you torqued everything as needed and everything's secured. After that, carefully make your way back underneath the passenger side front of the vehicle. Now from underneath, we'll carefully reach up there with our extension and socket, start the nut on there. We can bottom this out and then we'll torque that to 38 foot-pounds as well. Okay friend, we got our engine mount installed in the vehicle. Now at this point, what you want to do is make sure you start up the vehicle, put your foot on the brake, and run it through all the gears. While you're doing this, you want to make sure that the engine isn't shifting around very much on you. That's probably the whole reason why you're replacing the mount in the first place. Assuming it feels good, go ahead and take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.